Oh, yeah. Wait, so you're going?
Yeah,
Oh, you're
we're
going too?
going.
Oh, cool. Where are you? Oh, so where are you flying out of?
We're just gonna drive and go
No
for it.
shit.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Nice. Yeah. Oh man, it's such a great festival. Have you been before?
No, but it's a dream festival. It's crazy.
It's crazy. It's kind of the only festival that I know of that's like that in the States. You know, I think there's other festivals in Europe that I feel to some degree comparable, but here it's like there's nothing like it.
Yeah. Let's transition.
Okay.
Might as well.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, yeah, you are listening to NYC Radio Live. David Ellenbogen here. I'm super psyched to be with Booker Stardrum here in the secret location somewhere near Kingston in a beautiful recording studio he has. Good to be with you.
Good to be here with you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming out here.
Yeah, and the occasion, as we were just discussing, is upcoming performance with SML down at Big Ears Festival in Knoxville, which you were saying is just a really singular kind of thing.
It's a rare treat. It's kind of the big meeting of the minds for my music community, it feels like. And yeah, I've been there. This will be my third time performing at Big Ears, and it's always just so much fun. And it feels like, yeah, definitely a rare treat, and something that it's a one of a kind festival in the States for sure.
Yeah, and so I guess we could start there. What happened was one of the reasons all this was coming together was that the young kids at KCR asked me to come up with a top 10 of list of like 2025 albums. And I almost declined because I was like, I don't know. I'm just kind of like, there's something about certain time periods that just music was so magical. Like if you look at the top pop charts from 1967, I could give you a top 10 of just like the top 10, you know. But I thought that was the wrong attitude, and I dove in and discovered SML's the How You Been album, and I flipped out over that album. I mean, I think
thanks.
it's one of the amazing things to me is it's like somehow that group has like eliminated any of, what would you say, any of like the standard cliches of like what people might call jazz or something like that, but it's still totally improvised. But there's never, I don't know, it's so fresh and such a combination. So yeah, I mean, what's that feel like from the inside?
Oh, from the inside,
Yeah.
it feels very organic. I think one major component of the project and of sort of what you're describing is that we especially early on, but even still almost rarely discuss the music. We never talk about what we're gonna get on stage and do. And earlier on, we've been playing a lot more, but early on we were playing scarcely, just a few shows here and there. And every show felt like this big exploration of like, okay, what are we together as this group? And I think of note is 4 out of 5 of us studied jazz music at a university level and music conservatories, and then one, Jeremiah, did not, and he's super crucial to the sound of the group. But I'd say that we're also the 4 out of 5 of us that study jazz. We are jazz trained musicians who don't necessarily play like standard jazz vocabulary or something. So we've all have so many different experiences playing in so many different kinds of projects. Like, I come from really experimental music, improvised music, noise stuff, indie rock. I've played in a lot of indie rock and more pop leaning projects. And of course we all have our own solo projects that traverse different territories and have some overlap as well. But I think another thing that's there in the air of the band is we're all just coming from slightly different places, and so not talking about what we're going to do, we all sort of come in with our own approach, and we all have our own way of playing and listening, and we're all listening a lot to each other, and I think that's kind of that's the biggest point I'd make, is that we're just listening to each other.
Yeah, it's ironically that is kind of from my research, I guess you could call it, from interviewing all these people over the years. A lot of the older jazz musicians, like I was just telling Schofield on the last one, like I had interviewed Randy Weston, and I was like, well, what would you talk about when you were at Monk's house? And he's like, oh, we didn't talk. He was like, we just hung out, So there's a lot of that. Even you see a lot of those people in comedy duos who had some successful thing forever. They never once talked about the act or something like that.
Right.
So there's something to that.
I think so. I think so. Yeah. I mean, we're a group of people that like to hang out together, and yeah, I mean, if we're talking about music, we're not talking about our music.
Right.
Most of the time, I would say most of the time that's true.
And another kind of thing about the group is it's not just that the melodies were kind of something you could easily put in a box, but even sonically, it's not like, there's times that a listener might say, is that a guitar? Is that a saxophone going through some pedals? Is that what is that? So that's another element of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Not necessarily an intentional
right.
Element, because again, we came together very organically, and yeah, I'd say that one of the unspoken goals is that we're all sort of blending our sounds together, and particularly, I mean, you already noted it, saxophone, synth, and guitar. You really just never know who's playing what, and I could be thinking I'm hearing guitar doing something, and it's actually saxophone, and same for synthesizer. The drums and the bass are a little bit more obvious with what we're doing, but the way I like to play in this band, the way I like to play in general, but it really works in this group, is to sort of fold into the electronic percussion. And Jeremiah and I sort of form one unit, and I think that also directs some of the kind of avoidance of tropes or something. Mm-hmm. Like we're able to I rarely am like, let me lay down like a fat beat with a snare on 2 and 4 and just do the thing. I mean, it certainly happens, but I'm much more interested in dancing around the sequencers that Jeremiah is setting up and playing rhythmically, sort of folding in rhythmically and texturally with what he's setting up.
Yeah, and sonically, you especially here in your own recordings, you have quite a wide scope, and in doing my digging this week, and I see that really there's a lineage for you that goes back to the Wild West and Harry Partch, right?
Yeah, certainly.
So maybe you could help put that together for us. So and a lot of people might not even know who Harry Partch is, but
sure. Harry Partch was a composer, a 20th century, very very, I would say, important 20th century composer and instrument builder, instrument inventor. He developed a 43 tone per octave scale that he built his instruments around, that tonality and that scale system. And he was also heavily involved in large-scale theater productions, and he was a bit of an educator, I think. So one thing that he did was he was always looking for young musicians to play his music, because he was a bit of an outsider artist, and I think there were a few times where he was working inside of an institution, like sort of like he had a residency at University of San Diego. So he was in Los Angeles, and he was always looking for young people to play his music. And my father grew up in San Pedro, and he was first a jazz trumpet player, and he actually took private lessons with the great Don Ellis.
Oh wow!
And Don Ellis had a quarter tone trumpet. He had an extra valve on his trumpet that he was able to play quarter tones on, and my dad became really interested in that. And that sort of happened at the same time that he was developing an interest in just composition and arranging. And when he went to college, the way my dad told the story is he got to school and there were just trumpet players that were just better than him, more serious. And he was just getting more into composition. So he kind of veered off and became a composer. But he worked with Harry Partch. He's on some recordings, and he even followed Harry to UCSD for, I think, when a semester of college. My dad met Harry when he was around 16 or 17 years old and was driving across to LA to go and rehearse with him. And then my dad took off and had his own career and went to grad school. He went to Cal Arts and studied composition with like James Tenney and others, and started his own composition practice and became a composer of a lot of percussion music, heavily influenced by Harry Partch. My dad was a microtonal composer, and he led an ensemble from late 70s, maybe 1978 to around 2013 when he passed away, called New Band, and that was an ensemble that he ran with my mother, who's a flute player. That's a bit.
Well, there's so many things that makes me think about. Well, one is just that Harry Partch he's such a larger than life figure, just like the details that I was reading about him. That apparently he was born, spent time as a child in parts of the United States that weren't settled yet, so he actually saw outlaws and stuff in the Wild West.
Yeah.
And then he, was an actual hobo at some points during the Great Depression.
That's right.
And then, he, I guess during that time, he fell upon this really kind of fascinating system of music that's based on actual reality, because it's actually based on overtones. It's not like that, so
right,
he's onto something.
I didn't mention that the tonality he was working with and the scale system he was working with is in just intonation, which is based on the natural overtone series, which, in a fixed scale like our Western scale, the piano, each note is exactly the same amount apart from the next one, each half tone. And in just intonation, it is following a different organic logic of the actual way overtones work in nature.
Yeah. And for that reason, it's like if you hear his music or your dad's, who kind of extended the concept in a lot of ways, it has a little bit of the same feeling as a lot of avant-garde music, perhaps, but it's grounded in something because of that that just intonation root. It's grounded in something that makes it appealing on a little bit of like a universal level, like you know what I mean? Because it's I find there's a book on music his name's escaping me, but the guy who's famous for writing about musicophilia. Anyway, Oliver Sacks.
Oliver Sacks.
You know, he opens it by saying, like, if a alien flew over the Earth, he would notice all these perfect shapes. You know, like you'd see a lot of square farmlands, and you know, and triangles, and a lot of spheres and circles, and those are the things we're attracted to because there's a logic, and our brain likes logic. And so Harry Partch and your kind of dug into, I guess what he attributed to the Greeks, but he went straight to that core, and it opened up like a kind of universe that your dad really kind of
followed and continued with, and my dad did his own thing, and he became a composer in his own right. But a big thing happened in 1990, which is that my dad became the conservator of the Harry Partch Instrumentarium. So then my dad was able to compose for those instruments and sort of continue the legacy. So he commissioned other composers to make works for those instruments, and it was a little controversial. Some purists, some Partch purists were pretty against that, actually. And my dad kind of stuck to his guns and felt pretty strongly about that the only way for sort of the legacy of someone like Partch to live on was to keep moving forward with it.
And your mom is a very serious flautist. I mean, what she's pulling off, it's amazing, because some of those pieces, I guess, when you have 43 microtones to work with, you know, some of that stuff, suddenly it sounds very, you know, I don't know, Chinese or Asian, like suddenly it has that feeling, suddenly it's a different feeling. And yeah, like particularly there's a recording, I think it's just the two of them doing something on ancient Greek scales. Is just gorgeous. I mean,
I really like that one. Yeah, it's really beautiful. My mom is a shredding flute player. Yeah.
And so how much I hear it, I mean, I hear it like a lot of your work kind of really adds up to me when I'm hearing it, but for you, how does it feel? Like, do you feel like that's part, like a big part of your vocabulary in a certain way, or?
You know, it's interesting. It's come up the most with this record because I made some instruments for that wound up on the record. Much less serious instrument building than Partch or my father, and also I kind of arrive at the tonality and some of the sounds, and what I would say is just a little bit more of a like less systematized, just more organic kind of intuitive approach. But I found some wood floorboards. So it's like a hard wood, and they sound great. And I found those in my basement, and they were just extras from floorboards that had gotten laid down in my house, I don't know, decades ago, and they were just in the basement, cut up. And I put them on foam, and they sound great, and they sound like marimba or bauphone, some sort of wooden mallet instrument. And so those wound up on the record, and they sound pretty Partchy. I mean, they definitely feel related. So I see the connections being made. I have to say I wasn't thinking about it.
Right.
Maybe that seems almost ridiculous, but I wasn't really thinking about it in terms of the way I was approaching the music. I think in general, my approach to music and composition in general is a little bit more just like felt and my father, and obviously Harry Partch, but my father, for instance, he was a lover of music theory and of math, and he really enjoyed that aspect of what he was doing. He had to. It was very important, and also just for building and tuning the instruments, it had to be mathematically really accurate for it to be in tune.
Yeah.
To deal with the scale system he was using. For me, I studied music, but I never felt like a great student. I've always loved music and been attracted to a little bit more of just the playing and the feeling, and so that's what I bring to this legacy or something, or this lineage. It's kind of, I see where it fits in, and I also feel kind of like I don't know, I've always just sort of been doing my own thing too.
Right. I mean, another, like, even though you are doing your own thing, for sure, it's also like, not that your father and Harry Partch are the only ones, and your mother, to be kind of fearless, but there's an element of that too, where it's like you're not necessarily doing the musical equivalent of coming out with a cane and a hat on all your albums. Like you're trusting the audience a little bit, and
yeah, I'm hoping the audience likes it, but I'm making the music I want to make.
So you make there's another sound that sounds like very interesting that you make, and I don't know, it sounds to me like kind of like a rubber mallet on top of some kind of hollow tubes or something like that. You have a track called like Rubber Tree Dance or something like that.
Oh, yeah, on SML. The first.
Maybe. Or there's. Oh, maybe I'm thinking of the Tall Trees on your own album.
Oh, Tall Trees is Tall Trees is a song on a 2-song EP by myself and Evan Shorenstein, who also goes by Photay as his artist name, and those are the wood boards as well. There was sort of a period, I think, I moved into this house in 2021, and I found the boards, and I just started playing with them and recording with them a lot, and I was bringing them around, and so they're on the first SML record. They're on the EP with Evan Shorenstein, and they're on my solo record Close Up on the Outside, which were all made between 2022 and 2024. It was kind of my period. I haven't. They're sitting right there. They're stacked up, and I haven't actually been playing with them very much. I have my moments, right? So I'll have a sound that I'm really attracted to, and I'll use it a bunch, and then I've kind of moved on. I maybe not permanently,
right?
But I've kind of.
They're very unassuming, since this is an audio podcast. No one would know that there's anything.
It looks like a bunch of scrap wood.
Yep.
But essentially, I just put them on this piece of foam that's right here, and kind of like in a line, and the foam has it's like egg carton foam, or I don't know what you would call it, but it's got some space, so they're not just flush on a surface, and so there's a little bit of room for the resonance to happen, but no resonators or anything like that. But that's what you're hearing on that track. It's the same wood board. So there's a thread in a bunch of the music that came out in these couple of years.
Cool. And just on the kit, who are your men or women? Who are the people that you were like kind of got you going?
Oh, so many, but I mean, Tony Williams, Paul Motion, Roy Haynes, some classics. Just the brilliant drummers of the day. Elvin Jones.
Did you get to catch any of those guys? I mean, obviously not Tony, but
not. I saw Roy, and I saw Paul Motion.
Yeah. I saw Roy too, and I couldn't believe it, because it was that Fountain of Youth band. I don't remember how old he was, but he was smoking.
Yeah. I saw him at I saw him, oh, I don't know what year this would have been, 2015 or something around there. I was visiting some family in Northern California, and we went to a jazz festival at a vineyard, which was, maybe a little corny. And he was there, and he knew it was corny, and I forget what he said, but he made one comment that just sort of made fun of the audience a little bit, and I'm not sure they got it, but I heard it, and I was just like, oh man, it must be it must be kind of a funny gig for him. But he was totally smoking. And Paul Motion, I saw him play with a quartet, Village Vanguard, probably sometime around 2008, 2009, and yeah, that was amazing too. I've come to, at the time, I'm not sure I even fully got, I'm not sure I fully got the Paul Motion thing. I've told this story to some of my students sometimes, talking about technique, but it was I was in college. I went to SUNY Purchase Music Conservatory between 2006 and 2010, and I was so studying technique and working on having really good technique with my hands and my fingers and being loose, and I went to see him play, and it was challenging for me because he held the sticks tight and he seemed stiff and kind of herky-jerky. But I really specifically remember sort of taking that in and being like, whoa, and then closing my eyes, and it was like he was playing on clouds. Like it was like he was just painting, and separating the visual from what I was hearing was kind of important. And I've come to, Paul Motion's maybe one of my top, he's maybe my favorite. Super influenced by him. Should also say like Joey Barron and Jim Black. Jim Black was huge for me, especially when I was in college, because I could go down to the city and see him play often. And he's a drummer like Paul Motion, just such a sound. Like you hear a couple measures of music and it's him playing. The way he tunes the drums, the way really it's the same for any of these guys. Roy Haynes, his snare drum sounds so specific. It's Roy Haynes. So that's what I'm looking for when I'm falling in love with a drummer or a sound is like, what is the sound?
I know, it's really amazing actually that so many people have really have found a way. Even, it's like a piano is a piano, so you'd think like, how could people have so much different tones on a piano? But they do.
They do. What a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. That's what I care the most about, like touching the instrument. What does it feel like and sound like? And the best players have their own idiosyncratic way of touching the instrument, pulling the sound out of their instrument that's special and thoughtful and engaging.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that they're able to hear it first, apparently when people would make guitar pedals for Jimi Hendrix, but, he'd be like, I'm looking for this underwater sound, and they invent a flanger or something like that, so.
Yeah, it's amazing to know what you want, or to know that you're searching for something else. I make a lot of electronic music, but I don't use a lot of synthesizers. I use some, but I don't use a ton of synthesizers. I wind up using, if I'm doing something like sequencing something, or want something to have a little, want something to have a more electronic sound, I am often drawn to sampling a sampling one of my own sounds, creating my own sound, just because it feels like something. No hate on the synthesizers out there. People who really know what they're doing, it's the same thing.
Right.
You know,
like Jeremiah.
Like
it's incredible. It's incredible. Yeah.
Like Jeremiah, he knows what he's going for, and he can do stuff with the synthesizer that I've seen few do. He's got a sound, and he really knows what he's doing with his instrument. It's an instrument.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, it's interesting too, like, because you the way that you're attracted to the samples of real sounds, it goes a little bit back to that concept that we were talking about earlier of just intonation, because any sound is actually just intonation, right? Like the symbols and just intonation, so I guess you're capturing something organic, right? It's like,
yeah, I mean, real instruments, real acoustic sound. There's a lot of possibility in that. I mean, a cymbal, for instance, has so many overtones. If you mic it the right way, you'll hear them, and that's, a cymbal just on its own. Like, one hit on the cymbal is already microtonal, because you're hearing all these different tones at the same time, or a gong, or a drum. Drums. I don't tune my drums to be in an arpeggio, in a fixed arpeggio or something. I tune them to. Each drum has a range of where it might sound good, but a lot of the time a drum sounds good in a specific place. And so I'm finding those places where the drum sounds good. I'm not thinking about, oh, this is an A, this is an A, and this is a D, or whatever. I'm not thinking about that. And I think that what I'm thinking about more than like pitch information or harmony is sort of like tonal harmony is like timbral harmony.
That's interesting concept.
Combinations of sounds, and I think it probably has to do with being a drummer, because the drums are a melodic and harmonic instrument, but they're also all about timbre and I had a teacher once that this is in college, and he was talking about extended techniques on instruments, and this is like extended techniques 101, and he's explaining what extended techniques are, and he's describing what an extended technique might be on a flute or on a whatever instrument. And he's like, in the drums, basically all extended techniques, because it's true. I mean, there's not really some sort of directive on how you're supposed to or allowed to play the drum. And you have these tools, you're playing with sticks, but you can also play with hands, you can play with mouths, you can play with brushes, you can hit the side of the drum, the top of the drum, you can hit anywhere on the head you want, and it's going to create a different sound. You can scrape the stick along the rim of the drum. There's just so many possibilities, and it's kind of like built into the fabric of what the drum set and percussion is. And so I think that that's just all kind of in there, in the universe of like what I'm thinking about, or not thinking about.
Yeah, well, the drum kit, like, it developed so quickly that the academy and the powers that be through, kind of concert music, they couldn't catch up. By the time it was let out, the genie was let out of the battle, like, people were swinging their asses off, and they couldn't be like, no, actually that's not right,
Right. Yeah, I mean, it was the drum set is, very relatively, the drum's probably the oldest instrument. The drum set, like one of the younger acoustic instruments, just early 20th century, really.
Yeah, you've heard it. It was like a woman who was in a sewing factory or something. Have you heard about this?
I have not heard about that.
So basically, Yeah, it was like this black woman that I want to say New Orleans or that kind of area, who worked in a sewing factory, and that's why the pedal that you step on goes up and down. It's exactly like threading, and so it was called a contraption originally because it was a drum,
like trap kit.
Yep, and that's
Oh,
how it
wow.
became a trap. Yeah.
Learn something new every day. Yeah, I mean, I guess what I have come to know as the history of the drum set is like, you know, and it is in New Orleans. You have these marching bands, and they were these large ensembles, and they wanted to figure out, well, how do we bring this music inside, play it in a smaller, in a smaller space with less people, and so it was just drummers, you know, percussionists being creative and putting together kits and figuring out how to go from 2 or 3 drummers doing the job to 1 drummer doing the job.
Right.
But it sounds like there's some
Well, it's the same story. It's just
same,
different parts of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's, you know, it's interesting. I never thought about that concept that you said of timbral harmony. But now you're saying it's like, if I think of the album in a silent way, that's the most perfect timbral harmony I can think of, right? Because it's like somehow the Fender Rhodes, the organ, the upright bass, Miles Davis is the way he's playing. It's all like, even the color of the album. Now that I think about it,
the color of the album, and the way they captured all of those
Yep.
sounds, the studio they were in, and who was recording it. That's like a, you know, that moment when the sun is setting, but it's like at the very end of the sun setting, so it's basically dark, but you've got kind of like a purple, you can see sort of purple clouds on the horizon. That's what that music makes me think of it.
and that's the color of the album cover part of
Yeah,
it. Yeah, it's
no,
part of
you're-
that blue. Yeah, it has,
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, great record. I mean, one of my favorites.
Yeah, and I guess the SML albums, from what I read, it's a similar concept of taking live performances and then splicing the tape. Or
Yeah, I mean, I think In a Silent Way was recorded in a studio.
Yeah.
All of ours are performed live and cut up, but all of our records are 2 records
Yeah.
are made from live performance, then cut up and
Yeah.
edited into pieces. So
who takes the lead on that? This coming together?
we all took the lead on How You Been.
Nice.
Our first record, Small, Medium, Large, Jeremiah got his hands on the tape. It was all recorded to tape. He got his hands on the tape first.
That must be why it sounds so good.
Recorded a 2-inch Nagra tape
Wow.
by Bryce Gonzalez in Los Angeles in a very small venue. This venue that is no more, but a venue called ETA. That was in Highland Park in Los Angeles, where a lot of this music was happening. That record was made, recorded all to tape, and then Jeremiah got his hands on it first and kind of sifted through and found some choice cuts, and then we all got together kind of gradually and made little edits and did a couple little small little overdubs here and there, but mostly kept it as kind of edited performances. And then How You Been, there are a couple tracks that were recorded also to tape, and that's what you're hearing, just that stereo tape sound, edited still, but to tape. And then we were playing more and playing in different locations, so it was recorded multi-tracked at a few different venues. And then that one, we all basically we worked on it remotely, so everyone kind of dove into the files, made selections that they liked, and then started editing. And we didn't talk about it very much, but somehow we all chose different pieces, and then it all came together, and we had to decide. Some didn't make it, and yeah.
That's actually a little bit of a miracle in terms of interpersonal dynamics. To pull something off like that, without just one charismatic person that everybody eventually resents. You know,
yeah.
That's pretty amazing that you guys are able to get along that way.
Yeah, it is amazing. I think it's like, SML came together pretty organically, but we didn't all know each other very, very well when we started. I mean, in fact, Anna and I met. I remember we shook hands. We said, "Hey, I'm Booker. I'm Anna." We met and then we got on stage and played the first time. So, and we didn't know we were forming a band. None of this was foreseen at all. We were just, we're all improvising musicians, and this was just a gig. Like, hey, let's get together. Let's get a group together and play. And we were so lucky that Bryce Gonzalez had been coming to almost every show at ETA and recording. So as soon as we were done playing and we thought, hey, that was pretty good, it was like, well, it was recorded and we've got it.
Wow. So you didn't even know.
And we didn't even know. And so there were 2 nights of that. So basically the way it worked is I was already living here and I came to town. I had some other project I was doing in LA. And I think I hit up Jeremiah and I said, hey, you want to play a gig? And he said, yeah, actually I'm putting something together with Greg, the guitarist, at ETA. And so they were putting something, they put 2 nights together. And the first night was Greg, Jeremiah, and Josh trio, 2 sets. The second night was Greg, Jeremiah, Anna, and I, 2 sets. And all 4 sets were quite good. And then about 5 months later, I came back and we played 2 nights in a row, 2 sets each night as the quintet. And so the first record comes from those 4 days.
Wow.
Yeah, we also had a lot more to work with on How You Been. Just the circumstance of the way we recorded. Our first record, Small, Medium, Large, was we just had major limitations in terms of monitoring and in terms of just knowing each other as musicians. So, sure. We that's where really the cutting up of it and finding the really great moments came from. How You Been, we had more to work with, and our next record we're going to have even more because now we've been playing together a lot. We've really come into ourselves as a group. You asked a question, I got sidetracked, but I think where I was going was we came together quite organically. Some people go way back. Anna and Josh went to undergrad together, and Greg and Josh, I think, went to a jazz camp together in high school. Jeremiah and I became really close in LA, and were sort of involved in a couple of different projects together. And but the way we all sort of came together as a group, it was sort of quite organic. So and I think what's happening is we all get along really well, and the music and we get along really well musically, and so that's kind of why it's working, and how, to speak to your I think your comment was like, I don't know how that could work.
Yeah, well,
or like it's amazing that it does, or something. That we all work in this kind of collaborative way. But it's taken negotiation. It's not like it's not so simple. We've had to kind of work out some kinks and figure out how we do work together and how we're going to communicate. And in the last year, we've sort of figured out what our different roles are. Who's doing the books and who's like talking with our manager to make sure that the manager doesn't have to talk to 5 people to get an answer about one thing. And, we all have our different sort of roles. We have our travel agent, the one who's, the person in the band who,
right.
Greg's the travel agent. He likes to figure out the travel and help with that. And we all have our little roles. Yeah.
Nice. Well, the last thing I was thinking about, you probably know this, like, if you have a perfect fifth, which is a 3, and you slow it down, it like just turns into a 3/2 polyrhythm. Yeah. Right. So it seems like polyrhythms are like an element of how you're thinking about music. I was just curious, like, how deep you dive into all that stuff. And
as deep as maybe the next person, but not like I'm really not I'm not like an obsessive, theoretically minded person. Polyrhythm, of course, is in there, but also polyrhythm is really just any two rhythms played at the same time. So polyrhythm technically is kind of just a simple concept, but in terms of getting into more complex polyrhythms, I've definitely like worked on them, practiced them, but it's not necessarily something I'm like, all right, on this track I'm gonna do my 7 against 11 polyrhythm and it's gonna be so cool. What I'm actually interested in is naturally occurring polyrhythms. Something that I'm attracted to in my music and in life, and I seek out is sort of like a rhythm, like again, more organic. Not that an exact polyrhythm isn't organic, but just rhythms that are happening against each other in an organic way. So, for instance, raindrops. If you have, in fact, the first track on Close Up on the Outside is called Close Up on the Outside, and it is. There are some other things going on, but simply put, I performed my memory of the arrhythmic polyrhythms, organic polyrhythms of water droplets hitting a surface, and that's kind of the basis of the rhythms of that piece. And so you get some moments where you might have a 2 against 3 or a 5 against 4. But not intentionally. It's really, I'm kind of like looking for a little bit more of a randomized feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah, it's like you're, well, here, like I think on your Crater album, it's like you'll have like a synth, and the synth after a while falls into its own rhythm, like the
beating of
the beating. Yeah, it'll fall into something. Yeah, so I guess that's another attraction, right? These like random.
Totally. Yeah. And so much of my music, I mean, and this is like a through line from my music and SML and basically most of the projects I'm working on these days it's improvised music, and I'm playing. And so my compositions come from playing. I'm not sitting down. I will notate things for other people to play once I get an idea in my head, but a lot of the starting points for the compositions are I sit down, I play something, I record it, I like it, I say, okay, here's something I can work with and that I want to build up. Build up maybe vertically, speaking of timbral harmony, finding layers that interest me. But usually my music is stemming from some kind of improvisatory action, and then I work from there.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. This has been super fun, and it's exciting that you'll have 3 nights, 6 sets to work with down at Big Ears, and you guys are it's kind of the big attraction. I mean, people are really excited about
it. Okay, well, thanks. Yeah, we're excited. We were honored to be invited to do something like that. 3 nights, 6 shows. Yeah, it feels really, it's a lot. We will be spent by the end. We're going to be so tired. We did this in LA. We did this in Los Angeles in November for our record release show there. We did 3 nights in a row, 2 sets each night, and we were tired by the end, but it was great, and it was super. We had so much fun, and it was definitely generative for recordings as well. I don't know when you're publishing this interview, but we're gonna have guests, so that'll lighten the load.
Oh, cool.
That might lighten the load for us.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll have guests on the second set of each night.
Yeah, because pure improvisation takes a lot of mental energy, right? It's
Totally. So much energy and so much yeah, and we're also so much energy with the audience.
Yeah.
Too. Which we, for me, I get a lot from the energy of the audience. So that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
But it expends energy too. And we usually we don't talk we don't talk about it. So we sit down and we just go, and it takes a certain amount of concentration.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited, and congrats on all the albums and
Thank you.
Yeah, and more to come. This was great.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks.
We did it.
We did it.